Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the House. I'm your host, Steve O'Brien, and this show is all about home repair, home improvement, anything related to around the house. And we've had quite a few guests in studio, and today we have another guest in studio. We'll be talking with Mr. Kenny Mitchell. He works for Newcomb Tree Service. I believe they're out of Hanson. I'd like to introduce my guest today. That's Mr. Kenny Mitchell.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for coming in. Well, thanks for coming in, Kenny. We're coming into the time of year where, well, every time of year is a good time of year if you have a bad tree in your yard, but we're coming into springtime, and is this a good time to, well, let's back up a little. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about what you do with Newcomb?
Excuse me, I'm the general manager of Newcomb Tree Service, and we're located in Hanson on Route 14. And my job is I'm in charge of daily operations. In the spring and summer, I have about 20 employees. We're a tree removal company, and we make our own mulch. We make our own brown mulch, red mulch, and also black mulch. We also have trucking services. I have 3 18-wheelers that will go out and do various hauling, whether it's a dump trailer or live floor loads of trailers, which is, that's a trailer that hauls mulch. We also have, we do excavation services. I have 2 excavators, 2 front end loaders. And everything that we do, Steve, when we go out to a tree job and a customer calls us, you can call and you get a free estimate, first of all. We'll come out and give you a free estimate to take down trees. Mm-hmm. Once we come to do the job, we'll take down the trees, and every part of what we take out of your home, we use. We have a wood waste recycling yard. So let's say, for example, you have 5 pine trees. We'll come out, we'll take down the 5 pine trees. If they're good straight pines, we'll mill those and send them to Quebec. And they make, the mill that we use makes lumber for Home Depot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if it's a pine that's not as straight, then we'll grind that up at our yard when we bring it back, and that'll make chips, wood chips, and then we'll make mulch out of the chips.
Pine bark mulch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything that we take out of the yard, we'll process. If it's hardwood, then we'll take it back and process that for seasoned firewood for the following year. And so everything that we take out, we use.
So that is, if a homeowner wanted to keep the wood, or I know on the site you would chip up the branches to get them out of the site.
Right.
Well, what if a homeowner wanted to say, well, just put the wood chips in my yard, I want to use them around my landscaping. Would that be something that you guys would?
That's a great question. If a homeowner wants to keep wood chips, which happens, that's not a problem at all. Now, let's say that you have 10 hardwood trees, 10 maples or oak trees. Mm-hmm. We'll actually give you a little bit of a cheaper price if we can take the wood, because we'll process the wood. Now, if you say, hey, Kenny, I want to keep it, I burn my own wood, then we'll charge you a couple $100 more, because by us taking the hardwood out of there, it actually brings down the cost. If you only have 1 or 2 trees and you wanted to keep the wood, then it wouldn't change the cost at all.
You'd think there'd be more money to take the trees away, because now you have to pay for trucking and to pick them up and just to handle it. But again,
it's actually not, because we have our own log trucks.
With the big claw that...
Yes, big grapple.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll send our log truck there, and like I said, if somebody's got several trees, then it's definitely worth it to bring it back. Sure. Because if we get a truckload, if we fill up the log truck, we can get about 7 cord of wood out of that.
Wow.
At $285 a cord.
And you guys, you split that and cut it right on your.
Yep, that's another thing too.
Yeah.
We split and we sell firewood, and we also will sell log lengths, so the tree lengths, which would be 20 footers. So that's $100 a cord. But then you've got to cut it all up with a chainsaw.
Right.
You got to get a wood splitter, and you got to split it.
Right.
So that's an option. So if someone that burns 4 or 5 cord a year, they'll sometimes buy a whole truckload of tree lengths.
It's probably a little bit cheaper than them buying it already split.
It's $185 a cord cheaper, but also, it's a little bit of work,
Labor, yeah. So you have to factor in,
right.
Is it worth your time and effort?
Exactly.
If you're one of these people that like to be out on the weekends doing that, then fine.
Right. We'll get a lot of old school customers that they're not going to pay $285 for wood. You know, they haven't paid for wood at all during their life. So they'll like that. They'll buy the trail load, the 7 cords, and split it themselves. You know, and split it all spring and summer for next year. So then it's seasoned for next year.
And I can't believe you grind up and you make mulch, and you do that right on site
We
too?
do that right on site. And what we do is, Steve, we take the chips over. And the mulch season starts April 1st. Okay, so we take all the chips and we store them up over the summer and through the fall and in the winter. And we have a big, huge pile that cooks. It's about
like smoke coming out of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It gets.
Wow.
You could take your hand, stick it in the bottom of the pile, and you burn yourself.
Really?
You know. So what it does is it cooks and it breaks up the chips. All right. It'd be like taking wood chips. Let's say I cut a tree today. Okay. And I took those wood chips and put it in our grinder and put black dye on it. All right. It's going to be big and thick. Once it cooks, it actually breaks down. So it's like the difference of taking it today would be like taking a potato and putting black color on there and make a mulch versus taking mashed potatoes once it's cooking for 6 or 8 months, you know. And you just get a better, finer product with the mulch when it sits there and cooks. Then in February, we'll stop making it, and then April, we'll start delivering.
I see. So you wouldn't want something that was freshly mulched brought to your house the same day or a week later. You want it aged.
Right. You want at least the wood chips to be aged. You want them to be there and cooking. And like I said, just because it's going to, you know, break it down. And as far as the mulch, last year, we sold 40,000 yards of mulch. Most of the mulch is wholesale. Okay, so it's customers like Whitman's Nursery, who's in Hanson. Different wholesalers, retailers rather, that we'll wholesale to. So we'll have our big trucks, our 18-wheelers, sending out 1,000 yards a day in various colors to, you know, all your smaller guys, and then they'll retail it to the customer. We do some retail, but not a whole lot of retail. It's mostly wholesale.
Oh, I see. I
And,
thought
we have a machine that's called a tub grinder, and you mix the wood chips in the machine. Actually, with the colors, you mix the color. It's like a inkjet, you know, for your printer. That's basically what the black dye is.
Okay.
So we spread out wood chips on the ground, and then we put the black dye on there, and then we run it through the tub grinder. And then that's the first process. And then the second process, you run it through again, and that gives you your final product of mulch.
That's amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed, like, a lot of the different, there's a yard I go to down near me, they have it brought in also. They're a big excavate, and I know you've heard of them, but I won't mention their name. But they do a lot of that. They sell firewood, but they truck it all in. They're not a tree service like you guys. They truck everything in, and they have a mountain of firewood. They just pile it high with a front end loader. They've got piles and piles of mulch, different colors, different types. You know, the basic pine bark mulch. Then you've got your I don't know, the cedar mulch. You've got so many different kinds. And I've always gone with the pine bark because I love the smell of it. And it's cheap. It's not cheap anymore. I was paying probably about $21, $22 a yard not too long ago. I don't want to know what's going to be this year, but there was one job I was doing. I was working for a contractor. This was in Norwell, and they had a company come in to do the clearing of the land. Okay. And I was amazed. They brought in a machine I've never seen before. It was a stump grind. They dumped the stumps in there. After they wouldn't just grind the stumps. They'd take it, roots and all, and throw it in this big hopper. Yep. And it was the loudest thing I ever heard. And it would just spin them around.
That's a tub grinder.
It would grind, because I know if you're doing an excavation and you're digging for a house, a development, or what have you, the stumps, years ago, they could bury the stumps.
Right.
And nowadays,
you can't do that anymore.
They have to take them off site somewhere, and you have to pay for that. Yeah. But they came on site with us,
that's
and they made mulch out of it.
We do a lot of jobs like that where in the off season, we'll send our machine out and do rentals. You know,
oh, really?
Yeah, we'll go. We did a big job in the wintertime in Plymouth. It was 21 acres, and they were putting in a farm of, you know, the glare, the solar panels.
Yeah.
So we had our machine down there for a week. So rather than that company haul out hundreds of loads of trucks, they hired our machine to come in, and we grinded them right there on site.
On site.
And then we took the chips and then brought them back to our yard, you know, and put them in a pile, let them cook for the following year.
That's recycling at its finest.
That's right.
I mean,
wood waste recycling.
Everything is just being reused, and that is fantastic.
You know, another thing is, as far as the environment, we don't like burning brush. You can bring your brush to us and we'll recycle it. We do charge a small fee to bring it in. We take in leaves, we take in brush, and then we'll grind that up with the same machine, put it in the pile, and make mulch out of it. So every form, of wood waste, we take it and recycle it and reuse it.
I never realized how large of a company you guys were. I've seen your signs around, and I've seen your trucks and your bucket trucks. I mean, you've got a crane, don't you?
Yep, we have 2 cranes.
2 cranes.
Yep, 2 cranes, 2 bucket trucks.
Now, for
we've been in business about 15 years, and about 6 years ago, we were taking in all this product and chips, and we were selling the chips, but we need to be able to have an end use for this, We were selling them and not getting, top dollar for them.
Right.
So that's when we bought a smaller machine and started making the mulch, and then it went off, it took off great over 2 years, and then we went and bought, a bigger machine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have 2 bucket trucks, 2 cranes. In the summertime, we'll run 3 or 4 crews, 4 men per crew, But when you talk about when you started the show, right now is the best time, because come springtime, where we get extremely busy.
And the phones are probably already ringing. With all the snow, we had a bad winter this year, and
Yeah,
a
tough
lot
winter.
of snow on trees and things. You're going to be very busy.
Yes, we're going to be very busy. And in spring and summertime, we're busy anyways, but
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks, it's really going to get busy. And it'll just take us a little bit longer to get out. We have a full-time estimator that,
Wow.
like I said, that'll come out, goes out 6 days a week. We can get you a night appointment, as long as there's still daylight, and
How do they estimate a tree? They do it by the girth and the height? and the
that's a great
prox-
question. It's all about access. You can have the same size tree in 10 different yards and be 10 different prices. Because people will call all the time and say, hey, Kenny, I got an 80-foot pine tree. How much is it? And I'll tell them, hey, between $50 and $5,000. Because how am I going to get you? If it's in the backyard, my guys might have to go in and climb it. If it's in the front yard, maybe I can use my bucket truck, or I'll use my crane. So access, septic system is very important. If you have a septic system that's near the tree, I can't set up near your septic system.
Right.
So access is really the biggest question, and determining how much it costs to take a tree down.
While we're on that access subject, I had a question that I was thinking about while I was coming to the show today. And I've read this where if you have a tree and it's close proximity to power lines, and I read this, you might call your power company and they might come down and do it for free because they don't want it near their power lines and the danger of it falling on the lines, and it's, you guys would probably rather not go near it if it's near power lines. But I thought about that and I said, well, okay, that's all well and good if the power lines run down the main road. But what if the power line coming from the pole to your home, there's a tree, like I have this at my house. There's a tree, it's a beech tree, and it's like the limbs are going over the power lines in every which way. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's going to fall on it anytime soon, but it scares the heck out of me that someday a limb might come down on that.
That's a great question. It works the same way as from the pole to your house as if your wires came down. The electric company's not going to come down and help you.
Okay.
If it rips the service off your house, you have to call electricians, your responsibility.
Yep.
Same way with trees and wires. We would come down, and wires are no problem. My guys are all EHAP certified, electrical hazard awareness protection, and they're all trained to work in wires. So wires are not a big deal, but it works the same exact way. You can call your electric company, and if you can get them to come down and do it, every once in a while I'll see where they'll, one that's really bad that they'll pay for it and do. But more than anything, you're gonna have to call the tree company.
They will disconnect it from the pole if you want to cut the tree down in your yard. They'll come down for free and disconnect it at the pole, so there's no chance if you have an accident.
Very rarely do we have to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very rarely. Once in a while, you might have to do that if it's something that's really caught up in the wires. But most of the time, my guys work right in there and take it right down. The wires are not a problem at all.
Well, I've always been fascinated when I watch these young guys, and I see them way up high in a tree with they wear the spikes on their shoes.
Oh, yeah.
And now are they considered riggers because they know how to tie things off?
They're climbers.
Climbers, but they tie things off in such a way that when they cut the tree, it falls a certain way that it doesn't come back and knock them off the tree.
And that's why now there's a lot of small tree companies out there, And sometimes they get aggravated with Newcombs because our pricing is always a little bit less, and that's because of our equipment. A lot of times we can go in with a crane. I'll give you an example. I went to a job, I'll never forget it, last year, and I gave a woman a price of $2,000 to take down a tree. And she's like, wow, I'm getting screwed. I said, excuse me? She goes, no, I didn't mean it that way. She said, I got a price of $3,000 from another company. And she told me who the other company was, and I said, ma'am, with all due respect, he doesn't have a crane. He's going to come in and climb the tree.
It's going to take him longer.
It's going to take him longer,
yeah.
And if I had to do that same process, it'd probably be $3,500. But it was just a different process. My guys are going to come in there, do it a lot faster because of the equipment. We have a chipper that'll chip a 25-inch tree with a grapple on it.
Are you kidding me?
$175,000 chipper.
Wow, 25-inch diameter. It will chip that log.
thing.
You put it in with a bobcat?
Nope. The chipper actually has a grapple on it, just like the log truck.
Are you kidding me?
So the crane will lift it, bring it down. The grapple will grab it and
pull it right
to
in.
the chipper.
Jeez,
now, if it's a good log, we're not going to stick it to the chipper.
If it's straight.
If it's a good straight log, we're not going to stick it to the chipper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think I watch that show Axemen all the time, and I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
I think those guys are crazy. They're just all crazy. But I mean, your operation is totally different than that. These guys are out in the middle of the woods and they're just getting logs just for the mills. Yeah. But you guys do more residential.
What we do is very, very dangerous, and safety is absolute number one.
Well, your insurance rates must be through the roof.
Yeah,
your workers'
that's
comp,
one thing that we get killed on is insurance, and that's why the cost of trees has gone up. We'll go look at jobs, and people say, "Well, I thought it'd be $150 to take down the tree," and it's the insurance. Insurance and fuel is the biggest because we're in the toughest risk. So
you are.
Our workers' comp insurance is, for the tree guys, is very expensive.
I bet you it is because I mean I've had workers' comp and I know that some of the questions they asked, do you plow snow? I don't know why that would be anything to ask me, but one of the things they want to know if I plowed snow in the wintertime.
It's because of liability, because they're concerned if you're plowing snow and plowing a parking lot and you hit somebody. It's exposure for them, so they're going to charge you more because we get that. The plow and snow has really changed the past couple of years with insurance companies. Years ago, they almost didn't care, because anybody in the construction business plows snow.
Everybody,
us. But now plowing snow it's definitely a bigger issue because of the liability.
Sure. Well, that's one of the things that I try to tell homeowners is to make sure your contractor, whatever they might be, if it's a large-scale project, and a tree company is probably the most hazardous type work you'll do around your home. They could have an accident, the tree could fall and hit your home. Somebody could get hurt. Anything can happen at any time. So you want to really be up on the insurance and make sure that company...
In fact, I'll even go as far as saying, if you're going to have, and not just trees, you're going to have anybody work at your house, ask for an insurance certificate. If we come to your house and you ask me for an insurance certificate, it literally takes our insurance agent 15 to 20 minutes. And they'll send you, I have to carry GL, which is liability insurance. So if I'm lifting a tree over your house and it falls, I'm covered. I also have to carry workers' comp, which if a guy gets hurt, so always request an insurance certificate. And again, whether you're getting a picture hung up in your front yard somewhere, or if you're getting tree work, any type of work, always get an insurance, because you can go to Craigslist and find anybody to cut a tree.
Oh, sure.
Whether or not they're insured, because if somebody does work at your house and they're not insured, guess what? It's going on your homeowner's policy.
Exactly. So, and then there go your rates. So
right. So always make sure you get an insurance certificate.
And not only that, Kenny, the other thing that is that, but references. And anybody will tell you if you have a reputable company, you have no issues with references. I mean, you'll probably have hundreds of numbers to give people to call.
I can get you residential, commercial references, depending on what type of job that is. But
so references and insurance are probably the two most important things to look for. But also get 3 or 4 estimates, and then you can compare the references versus the price. Again, the cheapest is not always the best way to go.
That's right.
I've always found that. Yeah, I've always found that, and I've had some clients in the past that had told me my estimate was not the cheapest, but it was kind of in the middle. But they said, your professionalism, the way you came across, and you know, just the way you documented everything,
Right.
and I gave them a nice proposal written out in front of them, and very detailed with a schedule of, you know, how much time it would take, a payment schedule, things like that.
Right.
That means a lot. If you get somebody that gives you an estimate on the back of a napkin or a piece of toilet paper,
Right.
be careful.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
That's always been what
We
I've
get a
done.
lot of repeat business. We get a lot of people that, hey, we were here at your house 3 years ago. Also, word of mouth, you know. Another way we get, like when the guys go out on Saturdays, anytime they go out on a Saturday, they'll be doing a tree job, and then a neighbor or somebody comes over. Hey, how much for that tree?
That would
and
be
they'll do
me.
it right there.
That would be me.
You know?
Yeah,
And we try to keep, like in the spring and summer, we try to keep the guys in the same town so they're not driving over. So if they're in Plymouth one day, we'll set up 3 or 4 jobs in Plymouth. You know, if they're in Pembroke, we'll keep them there. We don't want to send them to Plymouth and into Braintree, you know?
I got you. In the same day.
In the same day.
Yeah.
So it's less on fuel and, you know.
It's
and the other
more
thing we'll do
efficient.
is we'll start the guys, if they do have to go to, say, Plymouth and Kingston, we'll start them off at Plymouth in the morning, so then they're working their way back to Hanson. So then it's less of a drive when you're done with that lost job back to the shop.
Now, do you give them, like you have probably foremen for
Yes.
each crew.
Every crew has a foreman, that's correct.
Do you give the foreman, say, before they leave for the day, you give him an itinerary, okay, we're going to do this job, this job, this job, and this job.
Correct.
So they have to allocate how much time each job should take.
Right.
So he has to kind of, if the guys are dogging it, he's got to give them a little push
Yeah,
to say, you know, we got to get to this
Yeah,
next
usually
job.
we'll determine how many jobs they do by the amount. So, for example, I know the crane crew has to do X a day, okay? So whether it's 2 jobs or 5 jobs, long as it all totals up to that X, that's kind of how we do it. Now, it's not a perfect world. Sometimes you might get jobs that take a little bit longer, but they'll communicate with us, you know?
Yeah.
If it's the last job of the day, you know, we'll try to make sure we're there. Once it gets dark, you know, we're done.
Yeah.
You know,
And just
but
come
yeah,
back the
that's
next day.
the foreman's job, and then they'll call us when they're done with the job, so we'll know where they are. Because sometimes somebody will call the office and say, hey, you guys are scheduled to come today. Do you know around about what time they're coming? We'll know that if they're the 3rd job, they just left job number 1, and man, it's going to be a couple of hours. So we'll be able to judge, you know, by that. But
that's
yep,
pretty
every morning they'll come in, they'll have all their job slips right there for each crew. And it's the foreman's job, you know, to make sure. The first thing they do is they get to the job and they assess the job. They walk around. Before they even start cutting anything, they'll walk around. We mark everything that we're going to be doing. So if I come out and look at your trees, I'll leave my trademark on each of the trees.
Yeah.
My crew knows when they get there, if my trademark's not on there, they're not going to cut the tree. Because it's not like a bad haircut. It'll grow back in a couple of weeks. Once they cut your
Right.
tree, that's it.
You're done.
It's done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing they'll do is walk the yard with the customer, you know, set the expectation. I always tell these guys that. Set the expectation. Tell them exactly what you're going to do. Once we're done with the job, they do a remarkable cleanup, you know. They'll clean up, blow off the driveway, rake up any wood chips, any indentations in grass that we may have left.
Yeah.
They'll fix. You know, I'll have people tell me that, boy, my yard looks cleaner after you left than before you got there.
That's a good calling
it
card.
starts
Yeah.
first when they call the office and make the appointment, then when the estimator comes out, then when the tree guys come out. So it's a process from beginning to the end that, you know, you got to make sure that you're doing 110%.
Well, you must be doing something right. You guys got a good reputation, so I mean that speaks for itself.
Yes,
I mean
that's right.
if you were sloppy, I mean I'm sure you wouldn't be as busy as you are.
Yeah, that's right.
Now I want to throw out a question to you while I got you here. I'm going to pick your brain a little bit. I've got a tree in my yard. It's pretty big. I don't know what the girth is. Probably 24 inches in diameter at the least, and it's an old hemlock tree. And hemlock trees, they seem to die from the bottom up like a pine tree would. Yeah. You know, but it's over 100 feet tall, and it's probably 30 feet from the side of my house.
Wow.
Yeah, and the part that scares me is there's a split down the middle it starts about 5 feet up from the bottom.
Okay.
And the split goes from, say, 5 feet up to maybe 10 feet or maybe more. And the squirrels have been living in there.
Oh, yeah.
One year there was a bee's nest in there.
Yeah.
Hornets everywhere. Now the squirrels have been in there. I'm wondering if that's going to be a weak spot in that tree and if it's going to come crashing down if I don't take it down eventually. It's been like that for a long time.
Eventually, it's going to continue to
kind of wrapping in on
It's going to continue to
itself.
deteriorate. It's not going to get any better.
I'm hoping
you
my
know?
neighbor cuts it down because it's like on the lot line. I'm kind of
Well,
hoping
what you
it
do is,
falls on his
if it's
pool.
on your neighbors, you talk to your neighbor and say, listen, we need to take this tree down. Let's split the cost of
the
it.
cost.
You know, that's
Yeah.
another option. What happens, Steve, is with those splits in the wintertime,
Mm-hmm.
you get bad winters like we just had here. Water gets in there,
Yeah,
and
I
then when
was
it
snow
freezes,
blown. I was snow blown, and the snow blew right in the crack.
it
I
expands
couldn't help
from
it.
the ice, and then that crack is just going to keep going up. And then when you talk about having animal, I know this is not what you want to hear, but animals, whether it's ants, squirrels, they're in there, it's not good. You
No,
know,
they
I mean, the
just-
squirrels are keeping warm right now.
Yeah.
That's really what they're doing. But without looking at it, it sounds like
So-
that tree is going to have to probably come down at some point.
So you have to displace the squirrels?
No, the squirrels will find some place to go.
You wouldn't cut them in half or anything, would you? I'm nervous about that because the squirrels are there. I say, geez, if I cut this down, the squirrels
No,
are
my
going to
guys
come
will
running
pull.
all.
They have pictures where they'll pull.
I bet you they see
squirrels
animals,
out. They'll pull nests out and send pictures. You know, they'll be talking to owls. Please, will you leave the tree so we have to take this down. We're contracted. And,
No,
you know.
I understand.
But yeah, that sounds like a situation where, and that's another thing, the free estimate. You know, if you're not sure how much it costs to get a tree taken down, have us come out and give you an idea, because your average person doesn't know. But at least you'll have an idea, you know. Tax season.
I have a number in my head, but I could be way off. But I
Yeah,
don't
it
even
sounds
wanna,
like if a tree's that big and it's that close to your house, it sounds like it's going to be a crane. We'd have to
Oh,
send
it's-
one of
it's
our cranes down
right next to
there.
the driveway. I mean, it's the most accessible tree in the yard, probably. But,
Yeah.
Kenny, we're kind of winding down on time, so I want to kind of wrap it up here. We got a lot to. We've gotten into a lot of stuff, and we could talk for probably another hour on this subject. I mean, I didn't realize how diverse your business is. Again, we're talking with Mr. Kenny Mitchell from Newcomb's Tree Service. One last thing, Kenny, before we wrap it up, if you'd like to maybe put out a phone number where
Yeah.
you can be reached, a website for the viewers.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Our website is newcombstreeservice.com, and that's Newcomb's plural with an S on it. And we can be reached at 781-294-1520. Like I said, we're based out of Hanson. Right now is really an excellent time to have us come out, because like I said, 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to start really getting busy. Come out, give you a free estimate, schedule an appointment, and come out and just take a look. If not, at least assess your property and see what you have going on, so we can give you an idea what needs to go on over there.
And free estimate, you can't beat a free estimate.
Right.
And the other quick thing, and we got to make it quick because we're getting really close, is insurance work. If a tree falls on a house or something like that, you'll come out and also do that.
Yes.
Estimate that
Yep,
for the insurance
absolutely.
company. All
Yep,
right,
we'll
very
deal
good.
with the insurance company and everything for you.
Beautiful. You guys do it all. I mean, this is the most reputable company I've come across in a while. You guys really got it together. And with that, I'd like to say thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed
Anytime.
having you. This was really, it went by so quick. I can't believe how fast the show went by. But you've been watching Around the House, and thanks to all the communities that air our show. And all the emails and correspondence that I get from my viewers, I really appreciate the input. I can be reached at finisheddimensions@yahoo.com, and you can visit my website, finisheddimensions.com, anytime and kind of see what I do. So thanks again for watching the show, and we'll see you around the house.